Hello, everyone. It's great to be here with you again. Welcome to our program Consciousness in Evolution from Reaprendência International. And our objective here is to debate essential themes of conscientiology. Reaprendência, for those who doesn't know us, is a conscientiocentric institution dedicated to re-education and personal growth. We also bring researchers and instructors from other conscientiocentric institutions to debate with us themes such as parapsychism development, out-of-body experience, bioenergies, multiple lives, study and intellectuality development, and also teachers formation. That is the specialty of Reaprendência. So, in today's webinar, we have two guests that are Caroline Engelmann, that is here with us for the first time, and Djalma Fonseca, that is our guest. And this is the third time that we are having the pleasure of having instructor Djalma with us. They are both from Conscius, International Association of Existential Conscientiometry, okay? And they are going to talk about how do we improve self-knowledge. People, we have in fact a series of two webinars about conscientiometry. Today we have Djalma and Caroline, and in the next live, within 15 days, we are going to have instructor Luimara Schmidt and Carolina Engelmann together to continue talking about conscientiometry, okay? So today we are going to have a brief overview, a general overview for you to understand what is this technique about and how can we start our first steps inside conscientiometry. That is a specialty inside conscientiology. And in the next slide, we are going to go more deep into the conscientiogram. That is the book in which Conscius works, okay? And we are going to teach you how to use this tool, all right? So for our webinar today, I have some questions. For example, is it possible for a person to know themselves more ostensively, becoming aware of their real strong traits, weak traits, and missing traits? Yes, the good news is it's possible through this tool of conscientiometry that I have been telling you. And we are going to call our teachers, our instructors today. I'm going to start with Caroline. So, hello, Caroline, welcome. It's great to have you here. Yeah, you were moved.
So hi. Sorry. Hi. Technical issues.
So, Carolina, I will read your resume, okay? So, Caroline is a psychologist, specialist in brief intervention in psychology, teaching in higher education, and has a master's degree in society, culture, and borders. She has known conscientiology since 2013 and is a volunteer at Conscius since 2014. Carolina is also a conscientiology teacher, penta practitioner, existential inverter, and verbetographer of the Encyclopedia of Conscientiology. Okay? So people feel free to send any questions to Carolina. So she knows a lot about conscientiometry. So feel welcome. And we have also our dear Djalma. Hello, Djalma. Welcome.
Hi, Eliane. How are you doing? It's a pleasure to be back here with you guys.
Very good. Thank you. We thank you. And I'm going to read Djalma's resume. So Djalma is an IT architect and former IT Air Force officer. He has known conscientiology since 1988 is a penta practitioner and conscientiology instructor since 1989. Currently, he volunteers at Conscius as a conscientiometrist teacher and at Unicin in the International Committee. So, dear instructors, you can start at any time. I will transmit the slides here. Okay?
Very
And
good.
I will be more or less here bringing you some questions. Okay? Feel
All
free.
right,
Okay.
again. Thank you very
Thank you.
much for your introduction. All right. So today we're gonna be, seeing how can we improve self knowledge. Well, first is good to give an idea of what we call self. In conscientiology, self is our consciousness. So we are not merely this body. We consider that we are an essence that's immortal, or we admit that we live and can manifest ourselves in several dimensions, not only in the physical dimension. So when we go and sleep at night, for instance, most of us disconnect from our bodies, and our consciousness can go freely in the extra physical environment. Extra physical. So we are more than physical. Regarding this knowledge, we also admit that we didn't start in this life. So if we haven't started in this life, we are old, very old beings.
We
That
have more history than just the history we made in this life. And it's important that you talk about the concept of self in conscientiology, because it opens a field, a very large field, for us to understand what is self-knowledge in conscientiology. That is very different than self-knowledge in other areas.
Very good.
exactly, exactly. So knowing this from this perspective is quite different than knowing yourself from a merely intraphysical or a merely physical point of view. So the question is, do you really know yourself deep inside? So if we think that we are multidimensional, multi-existential beings, so how much do you know about yourself? How much do you know about your own essence, about your, set of experiences? And when we start studying ourselves, it's very important to understand that we haven't started here and we are not finishing in this life. So another thing that's very important she brought up here is the principle of disbelief. Please don't believe in anything, not even what you hear in this webinar. We need to experiment, have your own experiences. And once you have your experiences and you notice that, for instance, you function outside your brain, you function outside your body, you're gonna see yourself from a different perspective. And this is the perspective that we are inviting you guys to see yourselves in this webinar. If you haven't thought about it, you just give some thought, and let's start some exercise on that sense. Okay, we think we know ourselves, but we have a lot of tendencies. When we are born, we have tendencies, we have innate ideas in general that many times is different from the rest of people. You start your life and you think that, well, when I was a kid, I had this and that ideas. And who taught me that? Nobody has taught you. I
Or
have some of those,
abilities,
or abilities, which is even
like
worse.
when you're a kid and you have knowledge that nobody taught you, like you can do things and nobody did teach you that. how do we know some things that are part of ourselves, and where did that come from? If we know we have these multiple experiences, and we have more than just these few years to count in our memory, in our extra-physical memory, we can do research more deeply in those informations also. It has some importance here in conscientiology, and maybe we in other areas couldn't research those things in that way. So it's really interesting to know why some things exist for us in our extended memories, and why do we behave the way we behave as kids, sometimes very differently from our families, our brothers and sisters, but it's part of us, of our history. So it's really interesting, because we think we know what self-knowledge is, or why do we need self-knowledge. But if we look at the consciousness from a different perspective, we have very we have more outcomes, more things we can do with that search, with that knowledge.
We can, I hopefully we can evolve with that knowledge.
Yes, definitely.
Hopefully, that's one of the main goals.
Yes, that's
But in
the
other
ultimate. That is the
perspectives,
ultimate goal. That's the ultimate goal, right? Is to
ultimate,
evolve. Yes.
we hope we can do that.
Very good. Because you mentioned we bring a lot of knowledge when we are born and we don't know from where it comes. And I can mention also our tastes. We like things that our
Yes.
family doesn't know. We miss things
Hmm.
that
But
we don't know. For example, I remember that I missed eating something that when I tasted for, I tried it for the first time, that was yogurt. I said, that's what I wanted to eat. So it was amazing because nobody knew, when I was a kid, nobody knew yogurt. Of course, I had tried that in other previous lives. That's something that many cultures use it to eat
yes,
yogurt
Hmm.
in the past, and in the ancient cultures, they they had yogurt. And
and
so
your
when I
family
tried
didn't.
yogurt for the first time in this life, I said, that's what I'm always looking for. I needed, this is the taste. I know this taste. This is great.
I
In your
missed
current
it.
in your current family wasn't, accustomed to eat yogurt, but you missed it, and this is very interesting. You're talking about interests, tastes, abilities. All those things are attributes of your consciousness. Your consciousness has several traits and attributes. So studying your consciousness, knowing your consciousness, knowing those attributes. So wow, if I know my tendencies, if I understand my tendencies, I probably will start understanding where I have been. It's like CSI. You study those evidences, then you know your trace. You follow your evolutionary track or your evolutionary trace, right? That's one of the objectives of this assessment, is to understand yourself. But one thing that's very important also is to remove self deception and self corruption. why do we talk about those things? Because usually we fantasize, we idealize things more instead of running towards our inner self, where there is, in quotes, what I call reality, what is fact, what is your essence, right? When you run on that direction, you understand better yourself, right? It's possible to understand yourself in a more, let's say, clean, in a more objective, exempt way.
Djalma and Caroline, why do you think we usually we run the risk of self deceptions?
Because in general, we construct a self image about ourselves. And this self image is based on a lot of idealizations. And sometimes we let ourselves drift on those emotional tendencies. And when we do that, we have like lenses of ourselves that are not very precise. That's the usually what we do about yourself. When most of us have a very emotional, a very let's say dramatized kind of perspective of ourselves. You know, in order to
and
please,
and
Carol.
we kind of get attached of
Okay.
the self image we create for ourselves, or the way we might like people to look at us, or
Yes.
the way we think people should understand us, or the image we want to pass to the others. So we kind of get lost in the control. We want to control how people perceive us, and we actually do that because we cannot fully grasp the consciousness, the detail, the how much information we have about us in our center, in our more deep level of consciousness, and we get superficial. We want to pass an image. We want to get a kind of fake respect from others. We want to control how we are perceived. So in that way, we create some self-deception, some self-corruption. We kind of get rigid and do not see things in a more transparent way, because we are, protecting ourselves from the reality. But the thing is, we cannot decept, we cannot fool everybody. Maybe we can fool ourselves for some time.
Yes. Yeah, we can fool ourselves for some time. We can fool everybody for a little time, but not everyone, and yourself included, for all the time. So at some point, we're gonna
Exactly.
have to face things in a different way. And very very good what you're telling this, but because I think Malu has something to say. But before we answer Malu, there is one other thing that is interesting about this, is that a lot of people create a mindset where we cannot change. We are unchangeable. We are fixed kind of things, and we usually don't like. We like or dislike ourselves, and this is also something that is hard, because if we like or
We judge
dislike ourselves,
ourselves.
yes,
We
because
judge
it's
too
our
much.
nature. We judge too much. So we judge positively or negatively. So we end up making mistakes either on one extreme or the other extreme. When once we actually, and that's because the importance of things is external. What we
Mhm.
call luck external lock. So the location of your interest, the location of your values is outside yourself. And what we are proposing here is that we shift this interest to an internal, to an inner position where you're going to look inside yourself. And once you look inside yourself, the reality of yourself is not something to like or dislike. It's something for you.
Something that is. It
That
just is.
It just is. And it's not finished.
That's
It is in progress.
Evolution. Yes.
we can improve if we think we need,
Yes.
if we think that is something is important, we can go for it. We can fight for it and develop abilities. For
We can
example,
change.
nowadays I'm trying to develop my abilities in digital marketing.
Yes.
It's very challenging for my generation, but I'm studying, I'm trying to do it. It's possible. Of course, it's something external, but it's something that I want to get more smooth on it.
There is a portion that is external, but there is also, let me see if I can get in the middle here. Okay. There's a portion that is external, but there is a portion also that is internal. Your abilities, your capabilities, your, to do it.
Consciential openness to the new, to technology, that
the opportunities and everything. So I think it's very internal as well. So Malu was saying there, all the ones said that the fact that we are unable to engage in a profession is an indication that we do not know ourselves. Lack of self-knowledge. Perfect. Why is that? Because we don't know our capabilities. Once you don't know and you do not exert your capabilities in a certain extent, then you cannot engage in a profession. Or you think you lack the ability to do it. And then you're going to ask me, but listen, you have ability to do anything? Yes. You are potentially capable of doing anything. But to know what is your potentiality, you need to know what you have and what you miss. If you know what are your strong traits, you know how to use your current abilities in order to succeed in that profession. And you will also know what is needed. So if you know that, you know the kind of challenge that you are facing. If you know the kind of challenge that you are facing, it's just a matter of putting in practice, of putting yourself into the challenge that you have. Each one of us is going to have a different challenge, of course, because no one knows everything. And other thing that's very important is that no one is not going to make everything perfect with no mistakes. To learn,
that is not possible.
That's not possible.
To learn, we commit mistakes.
We need to commit mistakes.
Yeah, it's part of life, it's part of evolution, and it's not a total loss, it's not a drama if we made mistakes, because we can learn from mistakes, and mistakes teach us and makes us evolve much more than just when we do everything right. Because if we gonna evolve just when we do everything right, we're not gonna evolve at all.
Yes.
Probably because you don't even know that you're doing it right? Because when you don't make a mistake, you cannot evaluate when you're doing right also. It's logic.
It sets a parameter.
You need to set parameters. So the parameters, they come from the mistakes. They don't come from the success.
That's very important.
If you're doing success all the time, you don't notice that you're doing success. You're just going to start noticing when you make the first mistake. When you make the first mistake, then you reevaluate everything. Is what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. So mistakes are quite important. They are part of getting self-conscious of what you're doing. Not too self-conscious, but you need to have some perception, some capability of doing self-analysis. So this is what we call self-analysis. This is what we call self-reflection. So you need to reflect. You need to think, to process what you're doing or how you did something. This is what we call self-analysis, and this is all part of the metrics. How you're going to measure yourself, how you're going to measure your success, if this is possible, right? But your evolution, yes, this is something that you can measure. What is success for us? Success is to evolve. Is to get a little better than you were before. That's the whole idea. That's why Carol was saying we hopefully will evolve. Yes, because we're evolving one way or another. But when we evolve because we want to evolve, it's quite different than naturally evolving. All the animals, all nature, everyone is evolving. You want or not, but if you do it intentionally, it's quite different. Hi, Helen. It's a pleasure to have you in from Tennessee. My sister lives in Tennessee.
So we talked about self-evaluation, right? Self-knowledge, and and let's go to the other slide. Singularity. No consciousness is like any other. That's that's something that makes conscientiometrics very interesting and very hard, because there's no recipe for a consciousness or how to evolve the consciousness, because every single one needs something different. Every single one has to discover themselves so they can know what are the traits they have, what are the attributes they are using, what are the lacks that exist in those specific consciousness. So that is something that we have to have in mind, because sometimes we tend to compare ourselves and judge ourselves and say, but this thing worked for that person. Why isn't it working for me? Like, I want to imitate someone, and maybe that is not what you need. And being mindful of our singularities is really important, because it's our singularities that show us who we really are. Like, where we have been, it's different from anyone else. What we have done, it's singular, it's specific, and the way we interpret the world, life, evolution, it also may different from the others. And it is not something bad. Sometimes when our luck is external, like we compare ourselves too much, we think if we have something more different, specific, or that the others do not see as important, we tend to diminish, like we evaluate this as something bad or something that is not relevant. but it's our singularity that it's more important in this field. We
And there are
need
some,
to.
because of the singularity you're talking about, we know that there are things that are specifically you to do in this world.
Mhm.
That's why each one of us has something that is done only by you. What is it, Djalma? Yes, because our experiences, um, the level of, let's say, of intimacy with certain consciousnesses, or the level of example that you can make to other people is quite different from everyone else. So your leadership, that would be, in other words, your consciousness or your consciential leadership is going to be different because of your experience, because of your past experience with several things and persons and facts and situations and emotions and uh, power effects, and also uh, in in the body and out of the body during your lives and during the intermissions, what we call the time that you are between lives. It's also very important in terms of learning, in terms of the assistance you do to others, in terms of the encounters that you might have had in your lives and between your lives. So we are really very rich in terms of experiences, in terms of let's say uh, invulgarity, in terms of singularity. So Ellen is saying, great discussion. I feel like I have a hard time to accept my mistakes when I'm being a perfectionist. I expect too much from myself due to a lack of flexibility and self acceptance. Helen, this is not uncommon. And
Mhm.
and this is the way we relate to ourselves. Each one of us has a way to relate to ourselves, and we need to fine tune to better enhance the relationship that we have with ourselves. Just the fact that you are able to understand that and to admit that is the first step. So you're showing that you made a criticism, but to a certain point is positive. Why? You're accepting or admitting to yourself that you are a little over, right, in your criticism. So you need to let's say b- see yourself in a little different way. So all of us, when we start looking at ourselves, we're going to see that we need to evolve or we need to improve on the way we relate to ourselves. When this is the first
Mhm.
step of the conscientiometry. Very good. Uh, you,
Yeah,
you're like yeah,
it shows a level of self awareness, and it shows that you're seeing some part of you that need a little more flexibility, self acceptance, and maybe other things like accepting the errors, accepting that you're human, you're having a human experience, and in this moment, it's the better you can do. It's the best, but you can improve it with more affection. Maybe it's not uncommon because I had this issue myself with being trying to be a perfect trying to be perfect, a total perfectionist. And the relationship we engage ourselves with our reality, with the things we do, it's a very hard relationship. It lacks kindness and affection towards ourselves. Maybe we can do kindness and acceptance and affection with others, but it lacks to ourselves. So try maybe reflecting on this in your day-to-day basis. Like, when am I getting too hard on myself? Why it is happening? Because reality is an important factor in self-knowledge, the facts, the day-to-day basis. Maybe we can sometimes we kind of get lost in our reflections or in our minds and what we wanted to do or what we think it's the best to do. But in conscientiometry, we always come back to reality. What is the evidence? What is the reality? What we are doing? What are the examples? So we can get out of the mazel we create in our minds, and reflecting on ourselves and our relationship to ourselves. It's very important because it is a tendency we kind of get through life, this tendency of being too hard, on being not understanding of ourselves or not understanding of others. If we cannot be kind to ourselves when we made errors, I'm talking about my experience. I was not kind to anyone's errors also. So I was hard on myself and I was being hard on others when they made mistakes, and people made mistakes. So this is the kind of experience we want to get through this life, and it will make us evolve more rapidly or not. Because in my case, it was making my life really hard. I was being hard on myself, was being hard on others, and it was making life very hard. And it does not need to be this way. We can get mindful of ourselves and identify what we want to change, why, how, and improve ourselves little by little every day. At least it worked
Yes,
for me, at least a
yes,
little
very,
bit.
very, very good example. I usually to explain this, I need to bring out two concepts, which is memory and cognition. We all have, because we are consciousness, we are worse than a tape recorder. We record everything from all the experiences. All of that is inside ourselves. But our brain and our capability, our attribute that is called cognition, is what permits we go into our memory and see things. When we see things in our memory, then we have emotion, a lot of other, let's say, consequences of accessing those memories. But if see if you follow me, if your cognition is strengthens, opens, broadens, more you can go into your memory. If you can go more into your memory, you get more self-aware. In your memory that I'm talking about is not the memory of what you have done yesterday. It's what you have done in your whole existence as a consciousness. So the importance of cognition is very high, because then I can remember everything that I have done. But to do this, I need to go slow. I need to go with a lot of affection. I need to go with Twizzlers and, brush, not with um, not
And with
with driller, not
maturity
with
as
drillers.
well.
I need to go with things that are very soft. I need to treat myself in a very affectionate, in a very soft way, so that I can deal with things that are sensitive.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So to go into myself, it's very sensitive. So I need to go slowly, like an archaeologist. Exactly. Exactly that. So I go slowly and then I see myself. Ex- Very good. If you're experiencing this way, that's the point. Then your self affection, your self relation is going to be strengthening. And then your inner reality is going to expand because you're going there more times. Your cognition is becoming stronger. Then you can see things that are more sensitive.
We have another question now from Lou Lindemann. I will read for
Okay,
you. I
please.
believe I believe that the difficult thing is for the person to know what he really needs. How should they ask themselves to try to research this question?
Well, that's a very good question. Most of us do not know what we really need. Most of us. But one thing is important. What we really need is to relate well to our experiences. In general, we want outcomes. And what I'm talking about is the process. We need more the process than the outcome of the situation. So if we go through the process and we understand the process and we relate well to the process, the outcome is less important. And life is going to be
It's just a
different.
consequence.
In life,
It's just
it's
a
just the
consequence.
you know in general, we are too attached to the outcome, and it makes everything harder, because then we try to control, we try to do this and that, we try to that people see us in this way, we want this, we want that, and then everything
Exactly.
becomes very,
The
very
focus,
complex.
it's very out of you when you
Yeah.
do that. And the main goal that we go through conscientiometry, we tend to develop a more internalized concept uh, of the way we evaluate the progress. It's not so much of what people gonna see, and it's much more about how am I perceiving myself, how do I relate to myself, how do I see my history with another lens, with a kinder lens. How do I go to self intrusion and establish the self de intrusion? How can I know, is this my content, or is not? so I can navigate through intrusion, through self-intrusion. And it's more going towards the way of self-pacification. And it is so interesting because when we enter the process of self conscientiometry, this is not the goal. We discover this in the process that is so fun, so good. You feel so good about yourself because the thing is, we kind of get afraid of what we're gonna see. Like in the beginning, when we start doing conscientiometrics, we get afraid of what we're gonna see, and it is because we have mystified, like we made this information like it is something bad. It's all bad things I have inside myself, and you start to see so many strong traits, so many abilities, capabilities, and so many important things, and also to understand this the weak traits, the the things we don't do like we we want to do. And it's really interesting because we can look at ourselves in a more broad way.
Yes, and peaceful way. In a peaceful way, with
I
no
think
conflicts.
it's really
Yes.
fantastic. I
Yeah.
love conscientiometrics.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah, we do
And it
have online classes. Yes. Can you
Very
talk?
good.
You want to talk about it, Carol?
we're gonna have a class in International Week, and it's gonna be about comfort. We're gonna talk about strong traits, weak traits, and absent traits. Let me see, we have something about it in the sequence here. Uh, we have we're gonna have this course. We're gonna talk about the it's a very basic concept in conscientiometry about the relationship that exists between the strong, the capabilities, the abilities we have, and the things we do not do as we wish, the things that sometimes we don't know how to do or we don't have, that are absent, and the things that sometimes are difficult, that are barriers to our development, that are weak traits. And we're gonna have it in August, right, Djalma? It's
Yes.
August,
I think it's
and
August.
it's gonna be in the International Week. So if you want to participate, go to Isaac. They have all the information and how to enroll.
Yes. If you want to do it in English, so this is part of our English agenda, right? The next we're gonna
Yeah,
have
perfect.
more profound. We're gonna have a second webinar on conscientiometry, which Limara is gonna go a little deeper next
Yeah,
in
we're gonna
15 days.
talk about consentiogram,
You're
the
gonna talk more
instrument,
about the instrument.
this
Very
this
interesting.
book, but we have this is the Portuguese version, but we have an English version as well. And
English and Spanish.
yeah, perfect. We have done courses in Spanish also.
Yes.
Uh, we have online classes more in Portuguese than in English, but we are thinking about going into the English language also. And if you are interested, please let us know so we can organize ourselves to do some classes in English as well.
Very good. I will place the link for people to subscribe in the International Week.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you.
Very good. So, Helen, my sister lives in Knoxville, in Tennessee, and she works in the University of Tennessee. So you're in the whereabouts.
Yes, here it is. So I think we can go ahead. We
Okay.
have some minutes. We have kind of 8 minutes, okay? But we
Okay.
can
start wrapping, right?
minutes.
Let's see the next slide to see what. Okay, so yeah, what we're talking about today is actually the theory of the consciousness assessment. So is when we do the self-analysis, we actually assess our personal attributes, and you see interdimensional manifestations using the conscientiogram that I invite you to see on the next webinar, which is the main tool, and the evolutionary scale of consciousness. If you're interested, the evolutionary scale of consciousness is something that is in all the main books. Projectology, that is in English as well, it has the evolutionary scale inside of it. What is it? So the different levels of the consciousness up until the Serenissimus, which is the model behind the conscientiogram. So the 2,000 questions that is provided, that have been written by Professor Waldo, pertaining all the the attributes and a lot of traits that we can extract from the book, is the model that he based himself to write it, is the Homo sapiens Serenissimus, which is the last level of evolution before we finish this um, reincarnation or resomatic process of evolution that we have. Okay.
When we get there, we can finish the process of the human experience, but the consciousness go on.
Yes.
Towards
The
the
consciousness
next
continues.
level.
Yes.
The adventure does not stop there.
Yeah. I don't ask me what happens.
I
After
have
that,
no idea. I am very
it's still
excited to
it's
know.
still it's still to be known. Yeah. Still to be known. Haven't got there yet, so sorry.
No,
But
can
yeah,
help you with that.
we can help you with that. That's it.
Something that it's very interesting, it's very important, is this is the slogan of conscientiometry, the joy of self-awareness. And I think it's very interesting. For me, it was a joy. And at the start, it wasn't a joy. It was really dramatized, and I have a lot of issues with self-image and the attachment to my idolized self-image. And it was really a joy being self-aware, like into my deep consciousness, my multi-existential consciousness. And I invite you all to experience, because it's really interesting knowing ourselves more deeply and in a level that help us get in touch with reality and with evolution. And Djalma can tell it better than I
Yeah.
because he has more experience with that. But
No, yeah, same. Well, it's more, but it's the same experience. It's a very interesting joy to know ourselves better. We think we know ourselves, but we actually, in general, don't. You need to actually access your inner self, access your consciousness. And when you live more as a consciousness and less as, let's say, an intraphysical consciousness merely, or merely on, materialistic, perspective, everything changes. This essence, when you understand your essence, your needs, your main needs are fulfilled for some reason. You know, it's a re-encounter with yourself that is very self-fulfilling. So I invite you to do this, and the conscientiogram is a good way to find yourself.
What I remember is that I participated once or twice in some course on conscientiometry. And it was amazing because during the course you have a lot of ideas and insights about your own reality, and after the course at home during the week you start remembering things and giving understanding them better, more profoundly, and what connections that situation has to do with your um, current reality. And you start understanding a lot of things, seeing things with different eyes, reinterpreting it, and it's very liberating.
Exactly.
you
That's the
you
evolution of cognition. You just described how you evolve your self cognition. That's it. So
Yeah,
this is
it's
very
amazing.
fulfilling.
I think we enter in a flow. The explanation I give it's that energy field that forms. I, of course, there are helpers who are
Of
helping in
course.
that work, that are our
Yes,
extra physical consciousnesses that want to help us to improve ourselves. Since we are interested, they come to help us.
exactly.
And but there is a field in which we enter in a different flow, and we can do that. It's amazing.
and to do that, we have an institution called Conscius, and the main goal of Conscius is to help. We have this field, we have these reflections, and we improve our self cognitions. And Conscious is located in Foz do Iguaçu. We only have one base, intraphysical base, but we have a lot of online courses. Most of them are in Portuguese, but we did some courses in English and Spanish as well. So the main goal is for the volunteers provide to the researchers the holotocene to do this self-research, the self-conscientiometry, and to expand the cognition. Right, Djalma?
Yes. So we welcome any of you that wants to do this as well.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
That's it.
So I would like to thank you very much for all the participants that were here with you, for the great questions you sent, and for our instructors. I like it very much. I learned a lot, as always, whenever I am with you. You guys, you are amazing, and you have a lot of experience inside conscientiometry that can help us to go a step further in our evolution. And so, people, I invite you all for our next live that will happen in 15 days. As I told you, we are going to have Caroline Engelmann again, okay? And we are going to have Luimara Schmidt. And we are going to talk about how to use the conscientiogram. That is this tool that they have just showed to you. And
Thank you
so
very
thank
much.
you very much. You can say farewell, goodbye to our listeners.
Thank you very much, guys. It's been a very good pleasure to, have a space to talk about conscientiometry one more time. Thank you very much. See you.
I would like to thank you for inviting me. And it was nice to have this time to discuss these matters. So, see you next time. Farewell.
Very good. Bye bye, then,
Bye.
people.